Bob here, Chopper Bob Customs. Yesterday we got with the customer and the upholsterer and arrived at the final shape of the Carson top on this 39 Ford. So today the goal is to get the final fabrication and final welding done so that it'll be ready for the little bit of paint that needs to be put on it, so then it can be sent off to the upholsterer, which will probably happen next week. I need to get the top basically with all the paint on it so that it'll be ready for the 89er car show, the Street Kings car show at Logan County Fairgrounds here in Guthrie, Oklahoma. That's coming up on Saturday, and the owner of the car wants to take it with the skeleton of the Carson top ready to show. And since this will be an advertisement for Chopper Bob Customs, I want it to be there too. So let's get started with taking some measurements. What I'm going to do is this doesn't have to be perfect, but what I want to kind of do is keep it in line with this front one. So I'm going to start at the 10-inch mark and come out here, and I arrive at 24 3/16. And at this point, I'm going to speed the video up, but I'll take you through the entire steps, starting by moving over to the workbench. I have all three of them cut to length, and now I've got this one fit. I did that off camera. It's a little bit fidgety to get it done. I know what you're thinking. If I had a tubing notcher, I'd probably be done by now, and it would be more accurate and it would look better. And you're 100% correct. However, I don't have a tubing notcher at present. I made it accurate enough, and it's going to be completely hidden, so no one's going to see it. It's going to be strong, it's going to be rigid, but it won't be necessarily pretty, but it'll do the job for what I need it to do. And there's probably a lot of you out there like me that hasn't got $1 million worth of tools, and basically what you need to do is get out in the shop and do something with the tools that you do have. And that's what I'm doing right here. One tacked in. I will get the other two fit, and I'll get those tacked in, and the remaining two cut and fit, and got them lined up. And we're going to put the tacks in now. Move to the back ones. And what I've decided to do on the back ones, we talked about only doing two back here, but after thinking about it, I am going to put a third one down the middle, and then we'll be ready to take care of removing these temporary fixtures to get this back hoop in the right place. Because of the angles and the fact that there's a bit of a twist in this back bow, I'm going to go ahead and do these one at a time, trying my best to duplicate the other side, and then making the middle so that I can pull the twist out of it a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and make the center one. So I'm going to go, I've got this outer one made. I'm going to try to get it locked in here with some tacks. It wants to fall out, so hopefully I can get it tacked without it falling out. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so while this really stiffened this up quite a bit, trying to take the bow out of it, it's still just a little bit too floppy. So I've decided to go ahead and not do the other side first. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this in with this temporary bar right here with several very healthy tacks so that I can take this piece out and actually finish this right here. So then I'll have a triangle on this side that'll be very rigid, and then I can go do the other side and get it lined out. So I'm going to put the tacks in right now. Everything correctly. That should be some healthy tacks that will prevent this from going anyplace, and it does. Good. All right, so now what I need is a bridge to go between these two, and I think I'm going to make it 4 inches long, and I'm going to put a jog on it, so I'm going to make it 4 1/4. Okay, I want to put a joggle in this piece of steel. I've cut it to length, and now what I want to do is I want to offset it so that when it comes up from the part on the body to the hoop, that it'll overlap the edge of the hoop, and that way I can put 2 bolts in it, make sure it's good and secure before I weld it in place. And the way I'm going to try and do that, I don't know whether this will work with aluminum or not, but that's right now what I've got in scrap 1/8 inch thick aluminum. Basically what this is, it's an 1/8 inch thick piece of aluminum, an 1/8 inch thick piece of aluminum. This is the 1/8 inch thick plate that I'm going to be running from the original body part to the original hoop to lengthen it out and to also kick it up in an angle. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I've got this one on the bottom, I've got this one on the top, and I've got a gap in here to allow for the bend. And what this should do, if the aluminum will hold it, is it should put a joggle in this piece of steel. So we're going to find out together here if this will work. And there we have it, a joggle. With the joggle in there and a little bit of tweaking, it fits up there just right. And so now what I'm going to do is put some tacks in it so that this won't move, and this will be good and rigid on this side. temporary brace so I can use it on the other side. And I'll probably clean it up over at the bench. I need to get the other side ready to go. And that really got this so I can get the other side squared away. So I'm going to tack the same brace into this side to give it some strength. And then I go ahead and take this temporary. Piece with the joggle in it, and it'll be ready to tack in here, and then I'm ready to go to the bench and finish all the welds. Got the piece made, got it clamped in place. Now all I gotta do is tack it, and then this will be ready to go over to the bench for all the finished welding. Begins. We got a lot of welds to put in here. Some of the gaps are bigger than I would like, so this is going to take a little bit, but I will get started and probably speed the film up considerably so it goes by quickly for you. It's going to go by slowly for me. What I did on the side rails and this front bar up here was an 80 grit on a disc to get the welds cleaned up. Actually, I started with some 25 because some of the welds really needed to be knocked down pretty quick. But then 80 grit on a disc, and then 80 grit on a DA, and then 400 on a DA. I did this front up here. I'm going to use etching primer, but this gives it just a little bit more bite, cleans it up a little bit, make sure that there's nothing I'm missing as far as spatter. And I mean, the welds are going to show. I'm not going to clean them up. I know grinder and paint make me the welder I ain't, but basically I'm gonna leave it natural, and most of it's going to be covered up by grid with the upholstery, so not too concerned there. But I need to flip it over now and do some finish welding on the top side. So I'll go back to high speed, and I actually cut a bunch of welding out of this video because there is just a ton of welding in here. So there's one I missed yesterday. You got all these crosses and T's, and you come to the realization that you may not have got them all. So back to high speed. Basically took some scrap, made 3 small tabs. Because they're so narrow, my small brake was able to bend them at a real sharp angle. When you're braking stuff, if it's wide, the wider it is, the thinner gauge the material you can use in the brake. And that's why I bought that Swag off-road press brake. That thing, well, if you go out and look at my video, I didn't bend it to a 90, but because I got tired. But I had a piece of 1/2-inch steel about 6 inches wide in that Swag off-road brake. Again, those guys don't pay me anything, but if you need to brake heavy stuff for like brackets and stuff like that on engines and frames, get yourself one of them Swag off-road brakes, because they're great. But this one went in my small brake. I've got a 36-inch brake. I don't know whether you can see it back there or not. It's not a finger brake. The Swag off-road is a finger brake. That's the other reason why I got it, was so that I can bend boxes and stuff. But that small brake did a great job on getting me true 90 with that. So basically, I'm just going to put these in here on either end, and then one in the middle. 3 of them. Next trip uptown, I'm going to go get some wood screws, some panhead wood screws. I've got a couple other types of screws I've got to get, but that will secure this wood. The owner was by yesterday, and he looked at this end over in here. He says, "What are you talking about? That's good wood." He said, "That ain't good wood." And I said, "Well, no, at that end, it's in pretty bad shape, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. But as far as a tack strip goes, it's still great. So there's no sense trying to duplicate this curved piece of wood or go out and spend, I don't know if they even reproduce this piece and what it would cost as a reproduction, but this is perfectly serviceable. I wouldn't use it for strength, but for a tack strip it's going to work great, and now I've got all the strength replaced with all the tubing. So we're in good shape here. So I'm going to go ahead and get these welded in real quick. Back to high speed. Okay, with that, the welding on this is done, unless I missed something, which is entirely possible. But I think I got it all. It's good and rigid. The next step will be to get some paint on it, and of course get these holes drilled and get some screws in it. I got some cleanup work on some of the screws that are too long, but that's an easy fix. The bulk of it is done now. And I'll tell you what, this electrical conduit is great for fabricating for a couple of reasons. One is it's strong, it's lightweight, so it has a great strength to weight ratio. It's easy to form, it's relatively inexpensive, and it's readily available. I mean, basically, you can go to a hardware store and get it, you can go to one of the big box stores and get it, you can go to an electrical supply store and get it. I mean, it's everywhere. It's not something that you have to track down. I mean, you can go find it really good. The downside is the welding. It is filthy when it welds. It's difficult sometimes to get good penetration, and then the next thing you know, you're blowing a hole in the material. I mean, it's and the cleanup on it, I think you probably saw me with the wire brush right now. Every one of these just looks horrible because of it. And part of that is probably because of the galvanizing, which is a health hazard. I mean, let's be honest, it's not good for you to breathe the fumes. If you're in an enclosed space, I would highly recommend using a respirator. Actually, I probably should have used a respirator, but we're here in Oklahoma, and yesterday and for today, for the most part, the wind has picked up. That's why we're having wildfires. But it's kept the shop relatively clean, and I've not shown any. I've not felt sick from the deal. I haven't been breathing a lot of it. You hold your breath when you weld. Anyway, and then the wind carries it away. But yeah, if you know of something that basically meets that fabrication criteria. High strength to weight ratio, lightweight, high strength, easy to fabricate, easy to form. I mean, you know, it was a bit of a challenge getting the curves just right since I don't have a roller. But for the most part, it's pretty easy to using that bender that's designed for it, to put the curves in it. And I hate to pat myself on the back. I'll be the first one to admit that, like the big guy used to say, it's talent unloading from God. But when you look down the top, they're pretty much all in line. And what's, you know, the upholsterer with his foam padding that he's going to be putting underneath the actual top material, he's not going to have a lot of work to do to make sure that it's good and straight. But back to the point, if you know of a material that has all of that readily available, relatively inexpensive, and does not have the welding issues, I sure would like to hear about it. Put that in the comments. By all means, if you like what you see, like the video. Even if you don't like what you see, like the video, please. And tell your friends. And whatever you do, smash that subscribe button. Because I want to make sure that it's starting to get picked up on recommended for you. I know that some people have started to see it on the recommended videos for YouTube, I'm not going to bore you with painting it. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and get some etching primer and shoot it on the areas that need to be painted, and then I'll probably go with the gloss black. You've seen people paint before, it's not that big a deal. The one thing that I did do that you probably saw at very high speed was I used 25 grit on a 2-inch angle grinder, air grinder, to knock down the worst of the welds on those channels. And then I came back with a 3-inch 80 grit, and then a 3-inch on a DA, or I'm sorry, an 80 grit on the DA, and then I went with a 400 grit on the DA to try and get most of the sanding scratches out. So I think between all of that, a couple coats of etching primer, and then probably a couple coats of gloss black, you might see some sanding scratches, but the truth of the matter is very little of what I'm painting is going to be seen, and the stuff that I'm not painting is definitely not going to be seen. So I guess that's the upside to some of these welds, because they look horrible, but they're good and solid. And I mean, I can pick this thing up and move it around, and it's very rigid. I laid it on the floor, and basically all 4 corners touch the floor. I don't know how straight my floor is, but basically I'm very pleased with the way it's turned out, and the owner of the car is very pleased with the way it's looking too. So we'll be at the Guthrie, Logan County Park up in Guthrie, Oklahoma, Saturday. The Street Kings are having a car show and a swap meet. So if you're in the Guthrie area, stop by and see us. We're going to have the Blown Retirement Funny Car there. I know we're going to have custom autos by Tim as part of the Blown Retirement display. I'm going to have my 41 Chevy up there. We're going to have the 39, probably with the top on it with no covering, so people can see exactly how it looks when it's all assembled. So if you're in the area, come by Logan County Fairgrounds. It's right on Division, the main drag through Guthrie, and where there are going to be a lot of cool cars there. The Street King guys have a lot of cars that are really neat, and I know for a fact that what's he call his car? But Martin's going to have his Nova there, and I think he's got a limited run of T-shirts. I'm not sure whether he's selling them or not, but you ought to stop in and see that. But come by and see us, say hi, tell us you've seen the videos, and that tell us what we need to do to improve them. But by all means, smash that subscribe button and keep watching. For now, Chopper Bob out.